vrising has finally been released, and I'm glad we're now allowed to talk about how cool this game is. I've been playing it for 10 hours a day lately in the closed beta, and I have a lot of opinions about it. But first, I want you guys to get some quick info on how not to get caught in some classic beginner traps. There are many in this game, and also to make your journey as smooth as possible. You can also ask anything on my Twitch stream. I'll be doing a lot of vrising, so come and chat, say hi. Let's jump into this video. Let's start off with choosing your first server. There are three main default types of official servers: PvE, PvP, and merciless PvP. PvE, or player versus environment servers, have no player versus player elements and are perfect for casual players learning how to play, or for the type of players that really don't want any interruptions in their gameplay. This might be pretty good for you if you want to try out the game in peace. Next up is normal PvP, and I'd say that's the main mode of this game. And even though it's not the most brutal way you can play vrising, it is surely brutal enough. You can kill players anywhere you see them. There's only like a 30-minute new player protection. And if you die to a player, you lose a ton of durability and everything but your armor and weapon that is in your inventory. Well, let me tell you, those repair costs are a pain. And if you fight a lot, you'll be spending a decent amount of time just farming resources to finance that. Obviously, the most controversial part of this game is that everyone can raid everyone else's bases. You attack them, you loot them, and you can do that at any point during the 6-hour daily window of raiding. Typically, that's between 5 p.m. and 11 p.m. on your local servers. If your base gets raided and looted, that means they're going to lose every single item that you've accumulated in your chests and in your production, except for one tiny little chest where it's more like a safe. That's pretty scary if you ask me. But more on this a little bit later. Merciless PvP is basically normal PvP, but bases can also be completely destroyed or taken by other players. Your base is your progress. You can lose all of your progress in a matter of minutes. You can also take someone else's progress just as easily. And are you ready for that? Anyways, let's go back to the basics. Right from the tutorial, focus on the main quest. If you think you can finish the current main quest, go do it right away. It unlocks all the main game features. Only once you realize you're bottlenecked in some way should you move over to the other stuff like bosses and PvP. Bosses are probably the second most important thing and should be done as soon as you're powerful enough. You can probably do every boss that is within like 5 levels of your total gear level, so go for them whenever you see that you can beat them. You use the blood altar to find the direction of every single boss in the game. You just follow the scent. The blood mechanic in this game is very interesting. It's also crucial to having a good start and an advantage in PvP. I recommend you consume mobs with creature blood type for starters and with a high percentage in order to get the best early game buffs like movement speed. Brute is also a handy one because it gives you lifesteal. Get into a habit of using the feed action on low HP mobs and then canceling it in order to quickly get rid of their last like 30% of the health. It's like a quick finisher move. Food. Always carry food. At least like 3 or 4 pieces. Typically that's rats or tainted hearts. Also make those little healing salves or healing potions. You cannot really use them in combat, but just for quick heals outside of combat. It also keeps your blood levels higher, so you have the buff for longer. If you don't carry food, you might die to losing all of your blood and not being around mobs that you can quickly kill. So watch out for that. Let's talk about base placement and building. This is very important, especially if you don't really know what you're doing. There are all these pre-made base spots on the map. They're typically on the high ground, and I cannot stress enough how important the high ground is. Your base needs to be on high ground. You should probably build your base away from teleport locations because you'll be able to build your own in your base. Also consider putting your base next to a cave exit. I'm not going to go into that right now, how it works, but it might help you later on in the game. So what should your base look like? Well, as soon as you plant down the core unit of the base, completely enclose the little plateau that you have with wooden palisade walls and put a door. Otherwise, you're just gonna have people strolling on in and stealing everything from your coffers. Ideally, you want to extend the base tiles to all the ramps people would be getting in from and building gates on the ramps. I would recommend putting multiple layers of gates so you cannot be breached by just one set of dynamite. And the most crucial part, I would say, is upgrading from the wooden walls to fortified stone walls. That means that you cannot be breached with minor explosives anymore, which are pretty easy to make, and the only way to breach your walls are siege golems. If you're building on top of cliffs, you should probably wall off the cliffs right away as well, because at around level 60, people can jump up small cliffs. Potentially that means that you now have a back door in your base. So just make full walls around the base. It's not a cool mechanic in the game that's the daytime. You just take so much sun damage during the day unless you're in complete control of the situation. But during boss fights, for example, you don't have control. The boss is just throwing you around. You have to follow what it's doing, and I would just recommend you don't take boss fights during the day. I mean, taking extra sunlight damage is the last thing you need in those hard fights. And also, sometimes you get buffs during nighttime, so might as well just kill him in the nighttime. I'll use daytime for resource farming and just base management. You're gonna be doing a lot of that. So this is a PvP game, and how about some PvP tips for the brave ones watching this video? Well, it isn't cool, but your best bet is to just third party. Join a fight when the opponents are low HP. Yeah, that's a no-brainer, and that's gonna yield most kills. It is what it is. If you're attacking bases, you need 5 small explosives to destroy a wooden wall or a gate. Make sure to scout the base before you go in order to assess whether the base is even worth looting. And if you want to attack fortified walls, you need a siege golem. It can basically get into anyone's base, and you just need to break one wall with it. Then the base is going to get some kind of breach status for 10 minutes, and you'll be able to destroy walls with just your melee attacks. It's a bit ridiculous, and I'm not a big fan of this mechanic, and I kind of hope they change that soon. Now, if you're on the opposite end, if you're the defender, use servants and put really good gear on the servants. You should spend a lot of time getting them good gear and getting the high expertise ones, and get some really cool ones that are gonna do damage to players with some cool skills. Now let's just wrap it up with what I think are the best weapons and skills to use. There's a lot of skills in this game. I would recommend you get at least one healing skill, because there's almost no healing in combat in this game, especially early on. So as soon as you unlock one, you should probably get it. And when it comes to weapons, I would say the safest one to use might be the slasher, because it comes in with an invisibility skill. Of course, the only ranged weapon is the crossbow, which is also pretty decent. I've used it quite a bit, especially for some boss fights that are really hard in melee. And also for PvP, I think axes are really nice. And as you get higher level items, you unlock more skills on them. And that's it for the video, guys. These are some basic tips to get you going. Please don't get your bases destroyed and raided day 1 or day 2. And I think you'll be doing just fine. Subscribe to the channel for more vrising videos. I plan to do a lot of tutorials, especially if the game really picks up, which I think it might. It's a really decent game. And come by the Twitch stream. Links in the description. See you in the next one.